Ah!
You can't hear me? Or you can?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, that was your ZvP sound.
Yay. Ah! So, okay.
That sounds a little bit like something else might be happening. But, you know, you're German, so I'm imagining there's a dungeon and some nipple clamps involved.
Fuck. I'm not getting off on ZvP right now, for sure.
You know what they say? There's a fine line between pleasure and pain, mate.
But I can promise you, it hurts like nipple clamps.
Triple Helix says no, that's Austrian. Which part? The dungeon or the nipple clamps? Which one do the Austrians take responsibility for?
Hop over on EU, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Because
I'm hopping on now.
as much as I can stay up a little bit late, I don't want to ruin my sleep schedule too much.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I wanted to keep this tight anyway, like see if we can get some good analyses in under 40 minutes, figure some shit out where we both hopefully have a little bit of a better understanding. I will opt in DeepMind. I will.
Oh yeah. Wait.
I remember like Loco said he already got like 30 replays from people being like, I played DeepMind. I played the alpha. Yeah, and it's just them playing versus people called Alpha Star on the ladder. I'm like, oh my god.
You can imagine, like, my account name was Alpha Star at one point. It's not too long ago. And I was so happy that I changed it back already.
Yeah, man.
Oh my god, that could have gone so wrong. I'll give you host for all of these games, I guess. Wait.
Thanks, man. I mean, yeah, we can make you host for some of them as well, but you know me.
So
I'm obsessed with rewinding because I miss so many details.
For one, and also I know these games, right?
Exactly.
I can kind of explain what is going through my mind or not going through my mind. But so to like hone in a little bit, also for the viewers, what is my problem right now with ZvP? It is not that like there is some crisp timings that can hit really hard. It's just that there's so much variety. People can do all sorts of things. You have to react so very differently and so very fast to all of them. So that when someone actually does a crisp build, like a crisp PT drop or whatever, oh my god, I have to react so fast! and like it just messes with everything.
Yeah.
That really annoys me. So one thing I've been trying to do, because like there's so much shit that can happen that I cannot afford overlord speed. It just does not work.
I'm not a fan of it. I think it's terrible.
I especially right now, I feel like it's terrible. So I've been sending out 2 overlords now. I've been also doing the Sarah links, like the first pair of links on the natural, super fast immediately to the other side.
Good.
Get them past him.
So you always dodge the adept with it, yeah. Obviously you can't get inverse nexus first, but this game it's the overlord gets an easy scout.
I didn't do it this game. There is some variety obviously in these games because I'm doing different things.
Yeah. You're high enough to adapt. But quick question. If it wasn't Nexus first, obviously you might be a bit more worried about a Stalker coming out earlier. So would your first Overlord just stay on this natural high ground? Do you just keep it there real safe, or do you still try to dive in?
I send it like a little bit lower than the gateway so that I can still see the depth popping out at the top.
Yeah.
And if it's a Stalker, like I can take like half HP damage or whatever.
And just run quickly to the high ground, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
okay.
Like that,
so if it's
get some time versus an adept first.
If it's adept into Stalker, you would basically be like, oh, adept's out, and you're going towards the main. And then does the Stalker normally kill you? I guess sometimes you might get to the dead space in the back if it's like King's Cove or Kairos Junction. Even on here, you probably wouldn't make it.
I don't try to get back to the safe space, but I guess that makes a little more sense. I should maybe try that.
If you can get it, but the most important thing is the scout, right? Losing the Overlord is not the end of the world, because if they build a Stalker, it's worse for their build order. A Stalker's expensive gas, so it slows down their build.
So yeah, when there's an adept first, I go in with the overlord. Otherwise, I'm just like, well, okay, it's a stalker, so I try to get in with the second overlord when I'm like doing some poking with lings or like trying to fly in with both overlords at the same time. Because it's also at a point where you can manage to lose the overlords or take some damage on them.
So, quick question: if that
Yes.
first overlord does die to a stalker or something, second
Yes.
stalker, you only have an overlord in the main, so you're prioritizing scouting the main over scouting the natural gases. Obviously, on this map, I guess you can actually see the gases just by poking the wall with zerglings, but on most maps you can't. So I personally, I always prioritize my second overlord up here. You see where I signal?
Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah, yeah.
so that I can work it in and do that 4-minute 45 scout on the natural. Now, obviously, if it's a Marjorie, you need to scout the main base at like 3:45 to 4 minutes to see if they've pulled off gas in the main. So I'm just curious about your priorities because I don't know if there's a way to be 100%, but yeah.
No. I feel like there is not because, but maybe like we'll figure something out. I guess.
Well, if we get to 90%, that's good enough, right?
Yeah. I'll never. Yeah, 90% is fine. That's still way more than I have right now. So I don't actually look for the natural geysers basically at all, which maybe that's a big deal. But in
Might
general,
be.
it's something like even the DT drop, for example, can delay the geysers by a lot. I've played that once when I was playing Protoss and like really learned the build order for it, and I felt like you can really delay the geysers. So yeah, this is Nexus first. Nexus first into DT drop is very, very common.
Yeah.
What my problem here is just that.
Wait.
Okay, I can.
Wait. Did you cancel a bunch of drones?
Did I?
No, it's just you
Maybe I
built
did.
spore crawlers as they were all popping. I was like, shouldn't you be at like 46 or 47? And then I was like, oh yeah, 3 spore crawlers, an extra roach
But
warrant,
also,
that's fine.
yeah, it's also like that's. Oh, you mean 46 when the prism is at my
Oh,
base.
I just meant because I was watching your drone count. I thought you were being actually a bit greedy before, because I thought you were going almost to 50 drones, and I was like, whoa, psychopath.
Yeah, well,
Especially because you've
yeah,
got
but this is
four
exactly
queens,
what
yeah.
happens to me. It is just that my build orders aren't very crisp or very much on point because of this. So yeah, okay, I get the prism. So I feel like now, okay, look, there's DTs in my base, and yes, I'm not sure if I lose the third, but that's still very expensive for him. And I have my overseer ready, so.
Oh no! Oh, we rooted the spore a little bit far.
Like,
So that, yeah,
I went
that's
for
bad.
both the layer and the spore crawlers here because it's. I'm just so unsure of what to do.
So
Yeah.
that's actually another really important point, which I've.
Oh.
My green screen is super off kilter. Sorry.
Are your reality is leaking? Are you saying?
It's like it's got like just a thick vein through reality here because there's this really big
Off.
thing. I might fix that real quickly. But yeah, I think layer is the layer is very important. So, I've personally been prioritizing the layer and only going spores for the follow up, right? So I feel like doing that as standard is very nice because then you can always start your layer at like right on 3 minutes 40. Do you play against the 3DTs that warp in at like 425 or whatever the fuck that disgusting build order is?
Well, this is. I think I have a game of that as well.
Because that's like the one build that's just
But I think in
pisses
that
me
game,
off.
especially, I got the layer even earlier because I realized it could be that build order.
You
But we
realized
will
it
see.
could, yeah.
Let's just move on. Also,
But
the
so
MMR
what are you
on the chat-
prioritizing? Do you reckon prioritize the layer in future then and don't get the spores or like only get a spore on the third base?
Sure, because like the layer is so nice versus DT drop, but it sucks so much versus all the all-ins.
I think it's not too expensive though, right? Like the spores don't really help that much versus the all-ins either. Like they help a little, but not that much, right? So
That's
either
true.
way, it's like a similar cost overall. So I feel like as long as we go hard one way or the other, as long as we're not just being like, let's make 2 overseers and roach speed. Oh, there's a Marjorie hitting me. Whoops, that was a waste of gas. Like as long as you don't invest in layer tech, I think you should be fine. So what do you reckon?
Maybe, yeah. So I usually go really hard on the layer when I expect DTs. That is usually what I've been doing now. Just like try to get the layer like 330, 340-ish really fast.
I do it by default every game to make it easy, but if you can differentiate reliably, then that's awesome. If you can do it reactively.
Reliably. Being reliable and all that.
I'm gonna just play the replay quickly. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna fix up my green screen real quick. Goes 10 secs.
So then for chat maybe, because the chat probably can still hear me. The MMR is not correct right now. I've been losing a shitload on that. I am at like 5.6k right now. Yeah. I don't know. I've been pretty triggered by Protoss, but also I'm trying all sorts of stuff, trying to figure out some ZvT, ZvZ. So yeah, fucking Protoss. Just they can do everything. Chair stream. Fucking yeah. Yeah, fucking Protoss. Man, only because Cyril and Raynar are absolutely insane, that doesn't mean Zerg should usually like win tournaments. That's just a bad argument. Just looking at tournament wins is not a good metric. Fucking loses a sport prism.
Alright, that'll do. I gotta get a better green screen set up at some point.
Yeah,
okay.
your stream is really low quality, I agree.
Fuck your face. Hit me where it hurts. You know what? I like writing notes for my own structuring here, so I'm actually gonna be writing.
That would be nice.
I guess I can just write them in your coaching document actually, because whether I write them in yours or my own one, I never look back at my notes anyway these days since I've been playing for so many years. I used to read over my notes all the time, but these days I like, once I've written it down, that forces my brain to organize it and save it, and then I remember it automatically. So this is really useful. I don't need to write it down. I just need to like bring it back into my brain once again, and then I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. So I like writing it out just to make sure, because then right after I've like, especially with this, because this is one of these things we want to be really detailed with, right? Like I talked about the 3DT build. The reason I hate that 3DT build is because it complicates things, and we'd be able to, like, there's these little builds like that, which we kind of need to have as exceptions. You're like, oh no, you need to realize this one's coming. Like this one has to have specific tells. Like if you try to have your standard defense block the absolute fastest DT rush, or your standard defense blocks the Marjorie, it's like no. Like you fucked up. These are things you need to know that's coming, right? On the extreme end. So we're gonna kind of deal with those after the initial stuff as fringe cases, but I want to make sure I bring it back and double check at the end. Wait, can we deal with that? Can we deal with that? Can we deal with that? So for now, what we're choosing is we're going to say, look, lair ASAP as the priority. And obviously that means like a 3:35 to 3:40 lair. Now for the noobs in chat, that's all of you, including me and eonblu, we're all noobs. That you just leave one on gas the whole time, right? So you naturally have 100 gas at 3:35 usually, I believe, right?
Yeah, roughly around that time. Sometimes, when I scout DTs, 100% I even cancel link speed. Oh yeah, of course. Because why get it? Just get the layer a little earlier, even. Just be a little safer. I probably told you this before, but I have when I'm playing Protoss, because people in the NA ladder are just like, the most hard countery people of all time, right? So if I see them cancel Ling Speed, I know they're not going to build Spore Crawlers like 90% of the time. So I'll check, but every time, almost without fail, that I see Ling Speed cancelled, I go after the first DT wave, I warp in another 4 DTs, always. Like I chrono boost my gateways even sometimes, and I'm just like, nope, this fucker isn't going to be ready. And then you Archon drop the main base, 4 DTs run in and snipe the third, and they're like, oh, my 7 Roaches and an Overseer and 2 Queens isn't enough to defend this. And I'm like, yeah. You can't go straight to 66 drones,
As a Protoss player, when you see a Zerg do that, you get so mad. I'm like, no! How dare you try to game time me? So it's...
No, I would just like get it a little later. So this game just now got super messed up because I lost my third, obviously. I am not sure how much I like mutas, because I feel like mutas are the only way to be aggressive out on the map versus sentries, versus a prism, versus anything really. But they're so expensive.
Okay, so there's one little thing you didn't do this game. You knew it was a DT drop, and you let Ling Speed finish. Where was where was the 8 Zergling elevator, mate?
That's a thing you do.
Against the DT Archon drop, it is one of the best things to do. Yeah, because you've already got a fast lair.
Let's write that down.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
I saw multiple Zergs do this at Spring. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
exactly.
Great.
At WCS Spring, we saw like games literally won from that 8 Zergling drop hitting right as the DTs ran in. You always do it like just as the DTs are coming in, because you know they have no warp ins, they have like a zealot in the wall, and they've got... It's awesome. So that's actually this like tiny move, which is huge. So verse DT drop.
That's like, there are... So what happens on Europe ladder, let me like properly phrase this. There are a few people who aren't barcodes who always do DT drop, and they have really lacking control.
Yep.
Call it that, but they have some good movement, so they just hit you at your third with the DTs while the prism is going to the main and whatever. And it's like just this one moment of inattention and you lose to them. And this is like one thing that's so good probably versus exactly these guys, because I've been struggling so much. They're just always doing the same thing, and I'm like always just please.
It's kind of like in ZvT, right, where a player can seem like they're so far beyond your level because they're always dictating the pace of the game, but then you find like a few moments to slide in annoying small Zergling run-bys that take very little APM, and you suddenly feel like they're just not pressuring you, and your creep gets like an extra screen through the middle of the map untouched, and like you're up 10 drones from where you normally are against that player, and you're like, oh, you just crush them in a big fight, and suddenly they don't look that good. And you're like, oh, like sometimes there's just like the power of one small move to put them on the defensive is massive. So I think, definitely looking for those whenever we're stuck in, like you said, map like this where the third base covers your natural completely, force fields on the ramps, you can't poke in, you can't pressure them. So Nidus Worms, drops, and mutas are the only ways, right, to actually create a little bit of movement in 3 base versus 3 base.
Especially with slow overloads, you can do it. Man, even sentries killing immunities.
Yeah, that's the worst feeling. If you had like 4 more mutas there, you'd kill them, but like as it was, you'd lose all your mutas for 3 sentries.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm I don't know. My position isn't great, but I can still deal with this, especially because I know he's on enemy.
Yeah.
But I think he's just going in with the prism now, and I mess up with him because I sent the mutas over for no good reason, in my opinion. Here, I should have just held them back, especially because they're doing nothing.
Well, it's funny because if you hit the natural in the main, like he is all in, it will really, you know, do well, because you can also understand why you sent the mutas across the map, right? You're on equal workers with a Protoss. If he just keeps queuing up Immortals, and like he's queuing up probes right now, he can just sit outside your base, clearing up creep, go home, and then push across with like 10 Immortals and you're dead.
Force him to attack into me right now.
Exactly. One thing I noticed earlier with the prism rotations is there's a bit of a gap in your vision up here where the prism was being annoying. So I think you need to be a little bit more wary of that, because I feel like a lot of the maps have such a big main base. Cyber Forest, King's Cove, all of these maps, I feel like you need not only the Overlord in the top, but you need that second Overlord there. Neuropugnancy, all of them, yeah. So
all of them.
I think that would have been big, because it would have also spotted this warp prism rotation a little bit earlier as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
You did.
Yeah, that's but that's a good point. Like that, I barely don't see the prism. So, but yeah, an Overlord, like there is some dead space right over the restaurant, right? So I should send an Overlord there.
Yes. Sure. Yep. The restaurant over here, there's actually a really nice little spot where
it's just more warping in 5 DTs. It's just, oh man, that's so expensive.
He's got recall. It's a risk. It's a safe maneuver. He can just recall.
He's so angry.
Yeah, I mean the DT Warpin's very high risk, high reward play, right? I do that play sometimes where I like switch into the mode, but recognizing when it's gonna work and when it's gonna not is actually a pretty big skill. Like I know some Protoss players who just do that every game and they're like, let's roll the dice. But I'm very proud of myself when I choose to do those DT Warpins when I recognize it's gonna work, you know?
I also, like, the thing is you never know the whole story just off of one game. And especially versus on Europe Letter, there are so many barcodes. And especially when I'm losing to random stuff, or like not random stuff, but like all sorts of proto stuff, and they're all barcodes. That's what really gets me going.
Yeah,
when it's just the same like different barcodes. Those are the best when you're thinking, I know exactly what is coming my way now, and it's just like no, it's a different Protoss, man.
Yeah, and you can't like memorize the level or anything because they're all max level, right? So there's no differentiating feature unless you have like an MMR bot. Yeah.
They're like, this is this barcode who's 5.2k, and then there is a different barcode that's 6k, and yeah. So this is one of the games I sent you initially. It's the one where I'm just super confused. Sure, as I said earlier, it's 1 a.m. so I was playing super badly. So let's like this game not look at me, but just I was just too confused.
We want to analyze the weird Protoss build. Okay.
Yeah.
Try and his name is Spaz. So maybe that means something different in wherever he's from, but normally spaz means spastic, like a spastic muscle. So it's like, you know.
That's exactly like, I know that's not nice or anything, but after playing versus him, every now and then I was like, yeah, fitting name.
Well, I mean, the whole point is it's random, uncontrollable twitches in the muscle. That's essentially what spasms are, right? It's muscles contracting and uncontracting. And let's try and make some sense out of it, because the moment we get in that mindset, obviously it's hard. So
the moment we get in the mindset of someone who spasms.
Well, once we get in the mindset of being like, this guy's play doesn't make sense, it makes even less sense, right? It's like every time I'm playing Jim Rising, I'm still never going to figure out what Jim Rising is trying to do in his games, other than just hard counter blindly exactly what you're doing. But like, there's few players that make me feel like they're map hacking, and every time I'm playing Jim, even though I know he doesn't map hack, I'm like, is he map hacking? I'm like, what is this build order? I'm like, what is his logical chain of decision making? Sometimes it's just players view the game in such a different way to you, it's like really hard to see. So that was pretty fucking appalling. Wow, he went double adept on King's Cove.
Yeah, people do that. People do all sorts of stuff.
It's a big map.
And yeah, this is just awful already.
Okay, yes, don't look at your play like you said. We're looking at his build. Okay, so it's a double adept pressure into a prism. We're not we're not looking at eonblu's build because we know he's messed up from the start. Losing 4 drones like that, it's like a bit of a gimme at this level.
And the links and like canceling 2 spores as well. It's just
pretty bad.
And losing the goddamn overlord. Man, I was tired.
Okay.
So now
Forge Twilight.
So this is where I don't get it. Okay, so he went for the Robo. He's chrono boosting out Immortals now. He gets the Forge and the Twilight. He just opens up all the tech.
Yeah, this is a King's Cove special. So this reminds me of an old Neeb build that he did on. It's a little bit adjusted. It's not quite the same, but it's the same sort of mindset. Neeb did this build a few times. You know when he won that China tournament? Around that time, early last year or whenever it was, the big China tournament that no one watched. Won a shitload of money beating like 3 of the best players in the world. Exactly. It was around that time where he went for a build on, what was the map where you had 3 bases, it was kind of like an orange dirty ground, it was made by Avex, and it had a watery pit in the middle of the map. And you had like just 3 bases in a straight line, and only the entrance was on your natural. So you got 3 bases for free, and you had a 4th base just outside your natural. So it was like a straight up to 4 bases. It was the one where like a Villo and Riddler split the map. You remember where?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So basically, it was the idea was he did a little bit of fake pressure. Right. Backwater, thank you. Chat's amazing. So he was like, hey, here's a warp prism with like the lightest pressure of all time. And then all he did was make sentries, a really fast +1, and 3 bases and started building immortals. And it was just like, so you're not really putting any pressure on, which kind of defies normal PvZ logic. But it's basically saying, look, I get a free third. And I kind of feel like it's the same here, except Spaz is not going up to a third as quickly as I would have expected. And he's kind of just going up into the +1, +2 play, right? Like, this is clearly just a different way of going to that +2 play. Where, I mean, in the past, often we've seen double adept drop with the prism into +2, right? That's the original SOS build, which everyone copied. I know Probe's a big fan of it. He likes to do it that way as well. So yeah, this is, and then like a 6-minute 30 third base. Yeah, okay.
Which is really late.
It is. Like, it is incredibly late, even for this build. Yeah.
6:30 or even 6:40, like that's late.
This guy's
so late.
His build is loose. Yeah, his build is loose. Like, I'm not saying he's a sleeve of a wizard necessarily, but it's pretty loose, man. Basically, he's just not executed that well because his +2, he chronoed it and he actually didn't have the gas to start it up. And now he's making Archons, and he should not be making...
Robo is again chrono boosted, even though there's nothing building. And
yeah, and he's making Archons on... This is just a loose build. But essentially, this is just your standard +2 timing attack. It's just he's forgotten +2. That's all. Like, he thought he actually thinks he started it. He just didn't have the gas. He must have clicked it when he didn't have the gas.
It just sounds so funny. This is your standard +2 timing attack without +2.
It's just a poorly executed +2 timing attack, yeah. So this is... Okay. This is honestly, like, just, yeah. This is the one where you should have already had Bane speed and melee upgrades on the way, right? And you'd just play your Ravagerling Bane, and you would be fine against this. By the way, do you like to go Mutas off that? Against this build? Do you go Mutas, or do you go Broodlords? Like, assuming the game goes on.
I don't think I've ever played consistently versus this build at all.
It's tough.
So, I like, it's literally something I haven't seen before. And then, even like, loosely, poorly, whatever, however you want to call it, executed. Like, yeah, I'm as I said, like, I'm also playing really badly, so I should have had more here, which, like, man, imagine if I had Bane speed there. He reacted so slowly, I probably even would have crushed it then.
Did you see the Probe vs Lambo game on this map from Spring, which they went over on the in-depth show, Artosis and Naruga? Yeah, like, he pushes through there and it's the same thing. He's like, he's not watching for a second because he's like microing something else, and like the Banelings just kill every sentry and like 2 force fields go down as they're dying, and that's it. And it was just game over right there, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah,
just when you say like, okay, it's not a great build or not good well executed, then that's fine, because like,
yeah.
I'm sure if I'm a little bit more on point, this game would have been super easy. Or like ZvP engagement snowball really hard, so that's why going over these details is just so important for me, right?
Yeah, you lost 5 drones early on in the start. Yeah, remember you lost 5 drones at the start of that game.
Yeah.
So and you were pretty screwed there.
I was supply blocked and I messed up, and like,
yeah.
At least you're telling me, well, that actually doesn't make too much sense.
This is basically the timing he's meant to hit, but he was meant to have +2 finished. Like, it's usually about 8:30, something like that. Like, it's very late, and it really tries to bait you into going to 70 workers. But if you get to 55 workers early enough, identifying how light the pressure is, that your opponent has their natural gases up, 55 drones, and just start making, stuff, and then you're like, oh, he's continuing to build sentries, and then you add Bane speed, Ravagers. I'd actually really like to backstab them with Zerglings when they move out with this build as well. Like 30 builds, just 30 lings run into the third. At the very least, force warp-ins, kill a bunch of probes, yada yada. You can even base trade versus it, like, because they're pretty blind usually. You can like have your whole army chilling at their 6th base and then run in the natural and kill some shit.
Even though it was so bad, like, even the creep spread is pretty decent. I really could have caught him just absolutely on creep even then, so yeah, you're right. As I said, it was just the first game where it was like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, so I think that's, that's especially when you're playing in the middle of the night and you play a bit of a shit show, you start looking at mistakes your opponent made. It's really important to just kind of say, no, I played like shit. Okay, like let's go back and say, what was his goal? Okay. And once we looked at it, we're like, oh, it was clearly just meant to be that +2 timing attack build where, you know, it was the one SOS originally showed versus Solar on Neuropugnancy. And we all thought Solar was going to crush him. And then he crushed Solar because +2 Immortal Archon, great force field micro, great prism pickups to save every unit. And we realized like, wow, okay, this army chomps through, you know, you really can't go to 65, 70 drones. Like you've got to build even more units, which Solar was trying to just go like Roach Hydra while he's like, oh cool, like you're not attacking. I can tech to like Aspire or something. I can't remember what he was going for. He was going for like too much tech, too many drones. And it looked like the supply count, you know, he was up 50 supply. We're like, oh yeah, he'll be fine. It's like, no, you need more Ravagers, you need more units, preferably Banelings. Those +2 charge lots against Roach Hydra are insane if you engage with them properly. So awesome. So thank you ZvP for the 10-month resub. Much love for the support. Thank you very much, guys. If you all have any questions, please do shout them out in chat. We'll try to get to them. But this is basically me trying to help eonblu, who's having a bit of a tough time in ZvP, and at the same time trying to organize my own thinking on the matchup, because I'm really bad at ZvP right now and I'm really inconsistent and I'm really loose with how I'm playing it. Because same thing, like I change it game to game, which is bad.
Let me give you a good tip from a Zerg. Just get Immortals, get a War Prism, get some Archons, and you're fine.
Oh no, I mean I'm struggling from the Zerg side. Just in case that wasn't clear. Yeah, no, it's one of my highest win rates is PvZ right now. Who knew? Who knew? You know, I like to say I invented these robo builds as well, right? You know, I invented the immortal timing before it was popular, right?
No, oh man, yeah. Look, I can tell you, I could have invented that as well. It's not too hard. I'm sorry.
Mine was genius though. It was the 2 immortal drop at 530 without the 4 DTs that an actual good player has at the same time as the 2 immortals are dropping. It was great. And then you hit with 6 immortals and +1. It's a good build. So anyways, talk us through this one. So are we once again analyzing the crazy Protoss build, or are we looking at you?
Let me check. So I'm not 100% sure right now. Might be a crazy Protoss build. Did I get in? No, I didn't get in.
Watching those gases in the main. Oh, he's not pulling off. Sentries.
No, sentries. Oh yeah.
Oh, this looks like the +2 build again. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the exact same build as the previous game. I just assume that the upgrade timings are going to be more on point, and the third is slightly faster. Yeah. The third's like 45 seconds quicker.
That this is like a thing that can happen. I think, like it's just really like I haven't seen that before or analyzed that before or talked about this situation. So just seeing it now, him getting 2 Templar archives is obviously the best choice.
All right, I'm gonna link you up on Discord right now, and I'm gonna link chat as well, the in-depth episode, because they went over it over WCS Spring really well.
Oh, it was the spring one. Yeah, I watched the other ZvP one, the GSL all immortal all-ins and the SOS, where he went like 4 sentries and 3 stalkers, and Solar would just panicked so hard. So SOS just recalled.
Yeah. SOS is a dirty boy. So yeah, if you skim through that Lambo game versus Probe at about 17 minutes on King's Cove, as the I think this is one of the best examples of how to like just crush it, because Lambo shows like a really pristine, just very fantastic, and he is like starting to go infestation pit when the game ends. So he's like, you know, he's going to the next level. Yeah. He's got his transition. He's like, I will go Broodlords, but he's been so careful at staying on like 55 drones, and he just comes out with this horde of Roach Ravager and Bane Speed.
I'm seeing it on your screen.
Yeah. You see the force fields that haven't gone down yet?
Yes. Everything is just exploding in Probe's face. Oh my god, that's that's brutal. Oh man.
Yeah, he's like hallucinated Archons and stuff, and then he's just like distracted by something, and he's like misclicked force field or something. I don't know, man. This was really bad.
So fast. Look at No Regret even. He's just like, oh no.
Yeah, Jake's just like, well, that's they were already very critical of where this push came from. Same as against you. There's no real other option on this map, but there's such a wide open area that it is a bit tough.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's around the same build, and that makes then this is like it's like checking off the builds I'm just too confused about.
Yeah.
And it gets like, because he I don't think he ever pushes. He's like, well, you don't really have anything, and I didn't have anything because I was super confused. Look at my supply.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, you had a really good drone count nice and early, but yeah, he continued to probe up. So all you check with this build is what you're checking now with your overseer, where you say, oh, are they actually probing? So like normally they won't probe up to more than 55 probes at most, right? Which is like, like 8 probes on the, overlay. On the third base.
Especially no geysers.
Yeah, whereas this guy was like, oh, nah, I'm gonna like stop it for Immortals, and we're gonna like just go straight to Psystorm. And that's always the thing where like we talk about the theory of this Protoss transition, and I never see it in high level games because the Protoss just commits to the push, and it either works or it doesn't work. But there was always the idea, and it's a lot of what Jake and Dan were talking about in that in-depth episode, where they're like, well, it's bad because you're on Ravager Bane, you can't really trade that composition up a ramp, right? So if the Protoss stays on 3 base and adds Storm, like your army is hitting its expiry date like off milk, while the Protoss army is like, we're good for a long time. This is that long life milk you keep in the cupboard. You don't even need to refrigerate. Doesn't taste that good. Winning with Psystorm and Immortals, not the most skill, but a win's a win, right? That one was for the Zerg players in chat. Make you guys feel a bit better about losing.
That was for the eonblu in voice chat. Yeah. But yeah, so this, we don't need to go over this game now, because like I'm trying to push.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do a whole lot. I still have no idea what to really do. I think just going for Bane drops at this point would have been good as well.
Oh yes, Bane drops is the other thing where I lost to Probe in this exact same build matchup the other day, and I was like, oh, how can I do some sort of transition pre-Broodlord? Because I don't want to just be like, 55 drone Ravager Baneling, make 20 more drones and go Broodlords, because there's such a weird window there. And I was thinking about neuters, and I decided Bane drops is like pretty damn sexy off it, so I like that.
Because you have so many Banelings as well, you can't just afford it.
Exactly.
They don't have a Stargate, they don't have really anti-air.
Yeah. And then obviously going to Broodlords is still very nice, because your opponent is playing like a lower economy Protoss game than normal, so it is hard for them to afford the answer to Broodlords. Like you can see here, he's kind of preparing in case you get like 5-6 Broodlords out. He's gonna have like, warp in 2 rounds of Stalkers and jump on him, but he really wants to trade pre-Broodlord, and he's gonna hit a very nice timing here. I think he's been a little sloppy with making more Archons. I think he's only got 4. Like if he could just make 2 or 3 more Archons, his army becomes 6 times more powerful. Yeah.
I went for 3 mutas just to get the annoying Warprism out of the way. But yeah, my economy never was good enough to really afford this kind of trading. It's not the old snoot like 80 drones, Link Bane Ravager, 13 Ravagers, and you just go again and again.
Yeah.
Kind of economy, so I just can't afford it and I die.
And in general with that style, I think there has to be a lot of run bys, right? Like a lot of like Banelings hitting mineral lines and stuff to like, that's where you get your big value while you're hitting the front.
Especially if he doesn't commit. But yeah, so this,
cool.
As I said, like it makes a lot of sense when this is the same kind of style. And I feel so relieved, because those are like, this is the exact style I was so confused about, but that like if it's all the same kind of thing, it just
it is. It's tough to fight against, but yeah, when you spot that forge, you can almost assume they're not going to push you till +2. So I do try to play safe for +1, but you can even be a bit of a metagame at douchebag and just be like, lol, let's be even more greedier. But I mean, you got to build a lot of units anyway. Quick question. So we had Dr. Ryan, he said, how do you beat late game Broodlord Infestor? It's hard. That's why high level Protoss go all in always. So I think there's the real dichotomous and kind of somewhat false statement, right? People all in because they want to win and they happen to have strong all ins. That's it. Yes, super late game is not all that good for Protoss. Tight timing attacks, if you find a way to just leverage something that works a lot, you're going to use it, right? I hear a lot of people saying, like, arguing on Reddit, they're like, yeah, well, maybe Protoss wouldn't be all inning if Infestors and Broodlords weren't so broken. Don't get me wrong, guys. Infestors and Broodlords, very, very powerful. But I think who cares about one or the other? They don't intersect at all, right? It turns into this argument about, like, the balance and the things. No, focus on one thing at a time. Okay, so how do we fight Broodlord Infestor? Okay, let's just talk about that, which is the more important thing. I don't fight Broodlord Infestor. I don't want to go Sky Protoss. Fuck that shit. I don't have the patience for it, even when Sky Protoss was good, even when the carriers weren't nerfed. And the Infestors weren't quite as good. I'm a big fan of Mana style, which ever since I saw him, take multiple maps off Serral when Serral had Broodlords, I was like, if Mana can beat Serral at Broodlord tech by just having a second forge and Blinkstalkers added in, I'm gonna do that. So you guys will know that I always try to hit a pre-Broodlord timing, and in general, if you're playing a very macro-oriented defensive style of Protoss, I see some players and they're like, cool, I have Immortals, I have Archons, I Storm, and they just fucking sit there. And I'm like, what the shit are you doing, guys? So remember, one of my big focuses in the last few weeks has been telling people, if you're focusing hard on macro, make sure you have a clear pre-planned point where you then turn that advantage into an attack. Otherwise, you just let the game drag on and your advantage disappears because you don't know what you're doing, right? So try to make sure you've got a clear point. For me, if I'm playing, I play pretty defensive Immortal Archon Storm, right, guys? But I will always try to push. There's a point where I add a certain number of Archons into my army. It should be pre-Hive Tech. I might have done a little bit of zoning around the map with my army to clear creep, but never really looking to commit. Always having force fields and storms to, like, fuck my opponent up if he tries to jump on me. And I've just been trying to do Zealot counterattacks. And then at some point I will explode into even more Zealot counterattacks while pushing in the front, and I want to, like, kill bases, do big damage pre-Broodlord, okay? But behind that, I always have a fourth base. I like to go up to 75 probes, thereabouts. You could go as high as 80 or even 85 if you're a big boy Protoss. And I always get a second forge, because if you can get +2 armor, it's very, very good against both Zerglings and Broodlords, especially. Broodlings won't do nearly as much damage if you can get a few armor upgrades. And Blink. If I have Blink at some point in that kind of 150 supply plus stage where I don't mind 150 minerals, 150 gas, it's nice, because if they don't have, if they got 3 Infestors or just 7 Broodlords with no support, Stalkers can just jump on it. And you can blanket everything in Storm, and as long as you got a good enough ground army, it's great. But I find it's important for me to try and trade, even if I don't win the game, it's just an army trade. I want to trade pre-Broodlord so that the Broodlords don't have as much support. Because obviously if they have a ton of Hydras and Banelings underneath, and they're good at spreading versus Storm, and they got like some Infestors and 8 Broodlords, it gets harder and harder for you to just crash through with Archon, Storm, Stalker. But yeah, Mana did it multiple times against Serral in Austin 2017. So, 2017? Yeah, 2018.
2018.
2018, yes, 2018. 2017 was a long time ago.
Was the Neeps year.
Yes. So yeah, yep.
Looking at this game now, I think this is probably roughly the same of Forge Twilight +2, maybe? I just feel like... so, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. But
I mean, it's 4 minutes and he hasn't pulled off gas, so yeah, like he's gonna take the next 2, yeah.
This game is definitely one of those games where I feel like I have to all in because I went too tech heavy, so let me check. Oh yeah, okay.
So this one's gonna go a faster third base behind it, then he's gonna go for the Forge and Twilight, yeah. So this is like, this has a bit more flexibility.
I scouted even, so yeah, so...
but because that third is like a minute and a half faster, he could play a very normal macro game from here. He has many options, right?
Yeah. Oh man, why? Oh, I know why. Yeah. So I want to all in. I want to attack him because I'm like, well, I already have good set of units for a start.
Ooh.
And he just has a bunch of sentries, and my Ravagers are here, and I get this bile down, and I feel like I'm so far, like. I already had a set of units, so I felt like I needed to attack.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're on a very low drone count because the Immortal Zealot drop's been really annoying. And looks like you're going to do some pretty good damage here. But I think you got to pull back with these Ravagers. Don't go in there. There's Protoss in there. Good choice.
Okay. Well,
Good choice.
Just trading a bunch of links. There is no sentries left, so.
Yeah, so that was like a bit of a gamble from you, that assault, but you know, it worked out. It was good. Worked nicely.
But it's still also a gamble because I just wasn't aware of this kind of style, so...
I think one of the big things you're missing, honestly, is a timely scout on that natural gas, just to help limit the options. Because what we haven't seen is people skipping that gas. Yeah. I mean, you happen to get a nice scout on it here at 4:45, which is like not too late. That's kind of, I think 4:45 is when you want to double check those gases. Because if you're like, oh shit, he doesn't have those gases, like, damn, we need to, you know, go all in. Whereas with the Marjorie, we want to see the gases in the main at like just before 4 minutes, because they pull off about 3:45 is where we can really tell a Marjorie's happening.
Can you write that down maybe? Because,
yeah, for
like,
sure.
That would be because it's like there. I feel like it's just a few pieces missing, and it's probably just when to exactly scout.
Yeah.
Because
so
in general, I feel like everything is fine besides the fact that I just don't know when to scout because I don't know what to really look for after the initial tech.
Yeah, so, well, what I like to do actually is I do really like to keep that first Overlord alive when possible, so I can poke it through and check for the, even if I don't see the tech, at the moment I'm playing like kind of really focused on checking the Marjorie, and I think adding these 2 Zerglings in is something I'm going to do every single game as well. So I'm going to do, you called them the Cerylings? I like that as a name. Ceryl Scoutinglings. Yeah. So we basically just send the first pair across the map.
Those because he did it first in BlizzCon 2018 now.
Yeah, and just every game.
He did it versus SOS and Zest, and especially versus SOS, it was just so on point. He saw everything because of it. And ever since I just it was my kind of fallback strategy when shit was just hitting the fan and it just felt lost in ZvP. That's what I went back to, and I'm feeling a little better. But yeah, the Sentry Immortal different kind of stuff. That's the shit that's hitting me hard sometimes.
Yeah. So let me outline my scouting, and I want you to just think about anything this might miss from your current one. So basically, what I do, right? My first Overlord hits the natural at the moment. I've started doing this every game. It goes to the natural and it skirts the edge of the main base. So it goes straight down. So if it happens to be Stalker first, I can obviously use the ledge to run to the opposite side of the Stalker. And if not stay alive, at least get a full scout and take a long time to die with that Overlord, right? So I skirt along the edge of the main. See where I'm signaling? And then I come down here and I will scout through the main base just pre 4 minutes to see if they're pulled off gas, so I can have the earliest possible scout on a Marjorie build, and I can kind of see the full tech setup. Oh, it's, you know, Robo and Twilight and DT Shrine, etc., etc. And you come in from a bit of an unexpected angle, because on a lot of maps you can come in kind of, you know, either from here. Sometimes there is no dead space, so you're literally just sacrificing from there, in which case there might be a Stalker and you can't get that scout. And then the second Overlord is, like I said earlier, hiding up there, and it starts working its way in a little bit later. Now, if we realize it's Stargate, that Phoenix can go hide in the corner, right? It can go up to the top right and just somewhere where they're never.
That's what I do versus Stargate as well. When it's like, oh, it's a depth first, I go in with the first Overlord. I see, it's Stargate, then I move the second Overlord either completely back or just like to the top.
And then it's perfect for an Overseer Scout, right? To see early if it's 2-star Phoenix or something like that as well. So that way it's harder for their Phoenix to deny an Overseer Scout from there as well.
Yeah.
But assuming it is a ground-based blade, we would want to be coming in from about, you know, we'd start working our way down there, and we'd want to be coming in to do a kind of 4 minutes 45. We want to check this double gas. And if that's not down yet, we're like, oh shit, make units, you know, right? Because often by about 4:45, we're up at about 45 drones by that point. Assuming we've been safe, you know, at like the similar build to what you're doing, where you're like, you know, getting the lair, getting roaches, etc. But this is the point where if they don't have those gases, we're like, oh, no more drones. Stop at 45 drones, pump units, etc. And with the earlier one, of course, because we've scouted just at about pre 4 minutes for those gases, you know, we want to stop at most 41 drones versus a Marjorie. So because I've got this scout coming in, this is kind of the perfect time where we let these, you notice you've got 6 drones about to pop, you're about to go up to 40 drones. So that's the perfect time to go, whoa, save, you know, extra Overlords and get ready to build roaches as soon as that roach warren's done. So those 2 scouts are the most important ones. And I'm sure there's holes here, but I think that's kind of my main thing. Now, the thing I'm giving up with this is I'm not always able to poke in and see if there's the tech in the main, because I'm skirting the edge and playing it a little bit safer. But because we've got those extra 2 Zerglings as well, the combination of those 2 Zerglings, and if they see, oh, he's got an Adept on my side of the map and he's got an Adept in the wall, you know you're safe to just go straight through with that Overlord, right? Because you know there's no anti-air unit.
Right. That's also one thing that kind of, like, the second Adept I can just move in with the Overlord and like immediately move in and know for sure something is up or isn't.
Exactly. So I like this. Okay, so we're gonna write Seral Scoutinglings.
Yeah.
And then we've got the checking natural gases Overlord, which we are going to decide to go for, which I wrote down earlier as a possibility. And obviously, first OV checks front and skirts edge of main base. And if it's also something where if they go a Stalker, it might be at the front dealing with your Lings, and you could like get in, see the tech, and get to the dead space or something, right? I'm sure we'll figure out our own little patterns for what we do with the combination of the 2 Lings if they're blocked out and the Overlord in the main. We can combine that. So basically, combines with 2 Lings to try to identify tech, and that's at about 3 minutes, right? And then what is more reliable with it is at about 3:45. Check main base gases plus tech. No gas mining equals Marjorie.
Check the main base, mining tech. We could cancel the lair or just not get it then, right? We get the lair at like 3:40 or like right before.
Yeah.
So we could cancel the lair then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what level you're playing as. I feel like I can probably get a lair versus most Marjories I play against, and I feel like most players could probably get a Marjorie versus a lair versus me as well. But it's pushing your greed. It's unnecessary. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing that I can look out for. Like I'm not playing the highest level most of the time, but there is the odd Hearthstone or the odd mana or I don't know.
Yeah. And we want to give ourselves a chance to shut down their push for sure.
When there's like Hearthstone or I don't know, someone who's really good or on a barcode, I will be getting annihilated otherwise.
Yeah, no, it's a good choice. Cancel the lair against the Marjorie. It's a 32 pro ball in. They have literally no follow up. And just remember not to chase them too far off creep. That's like all my Marjories, they try to run down my Immortals and Zealots as they're running away. Like, because I keep a few Zealots alive, because you always pull back after the first wave, and I'm like, do you really want to chase into a warp in of 9 Zealots? Like, off creep? I'm like, no, Zerg player. And they're like, I'm going to drone and build more Zerglings. I'm like, stop building Zerglings! You're letting me kill you! Make just more Roaches. Roaches, like, yeah, some Zerglings is not bad, but Roaches is what it's all about. Without Roaches, those Zealots are just too good. They do too much damage with the charge. Okay, awesome. So, you won this game, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure I did. Even though it was a good position, I just got messed up too much.
Oh, I mean, he hit a really nice timing attack. Yeah.
Really nice timing. My mutas were... Like, mutas suck versus Archon.
And you forgot Roach Speed. Like, or you chose to skip it, expecting him to not push just yet, because you needed every bit of money.
No, I also didn't get it, because initially I went for this Ravager Link one, where I don't need Roach Speed, right? So, I just, like... I pulled a Raynor on the Roach Speed.
Not that it mattered.
Yeah.
Raynor played really good, man. It's very good to see.
He lost both Roach Speed.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit of a silly way to lose.
Okay, so yeah, this is very helpful already.
Cool.
Let me check. I think there's this one where he goes for the Zealot all-in. Let us go just over this one quickly, because I'm sure we'll find a mistake or a big mistake in my play, because I scout it completely and I still get shut down. I still lose to it. I'm so that's like last game we watched, it was the third one in a row of completely different Protoss, completely different style, and this is the second one in a row. And like after like 3 or 4 games of those in a row, that's the ones. Those get me. Like I usually just shrug it off after 1 or 2 games, but the third or the fourth, and then their barcodes. That's oof. but yeah,
I'm really looking forward to your feedback as well, because you play at a high level and you're very focused on Zerg, especially on these scouting patterns after you try them for a week, because I'm sure you'll be like, oh, in this scenario it kind of fucks you, and then you'll probably obviously find your own solutions, but you'll also point out weaknesses of it, which is I'm excited for, because that's always really nice, is realizing, wait, what is the whole of this scouting pattern? As I said, I don't think we can be 100%. Real quick, sorry man, Evolve Reaver, thank you so much for the big 5 gifted subs. Much love. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the Pigsty, guys. He's just held your heads under the mud and forced you to all get some fucking disgusting mud into you. So you're part of the Pigsty, whether you want it to be or not. Thank you very much, Evolve Reaver. Big supporter of the stream. Thank you so much, friend. Hope you're having a good one.
Can you quickly go back to like 2 minutes, 2 minutes 20? Just really quick for the Sarah links, because someone asked in chat.
Yep.
It's the first 2 links right out of the natural.
Yeah.
And on
the moment the natural finishes,
you can skirt past the adept like that.
We go. And then we wait for that second adept to go out. That first adept. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, the first
and then
adept goes out. You go past, and you do the waypoint next to the cyber core.
Because you know the adept's gonna pop out in the choke.
So it doesn't get blocked by accident when you have to look back at home. And you get 4 links a little later for the adept, because
to defend the adept at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny when people do the Sarah lings and they build no lings at home, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh god, no.
But we can also see what we just talked about there, where, well, if they do shut down those lings, if your overlord's already down here, it would have been in, and we go, oh cool, Twilight Robo, looks like an Archon drop, but we'll hide in the very back of the main, and we'll come back in a minute to check if he's pulling off gas and doing a Marjorie.
So this is like the part where, but here, look, I even scouted immediately, right?
Ooh, you're getting a lot of divey Protoss, man. A lot of very divey Protoss.
It's just 2 drones, but I guess I built 10 links. Maybe?
It's not terrible, but yeah, I mean, we could have taken less damage, I think, just slightly, but it's an okay trade, always. But just keep in mind, like, one of those, we talked about the little micro adjustments. Remember I mentioned, like, and these are the meta things I very rarely get to coach people on, because very rarely do people come to me say, hey, I'm doing, I've got a clear idea of what I'm doing in a matchup, but I'm still losing. Usually most of my coaching is obviously players like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But what we get to do here with eonblu, the rare treat, is like that 8 ling drop against a DT build that can just wreck them, right? Really cool little meta shift. If you're playing against a lot of these, because we've seen multiple players go 2 adepts, dive, the speedling all-in is just so high percentage against these players. Like a lot of speedling floods, or even just like a 20 speedling pressure, can really mess up a player's build, even if it doesn't break them, just because they've sacrificed 2 of their first gateway units. If they don't recall them really quickly, like if you can engineer a surround on them while bypassing them, they are just in so much trouble. So just keep in mind...
Talking about the 2 adepts now, right?
Yes, the 2 adepts coming in, usually that's a sign you might be able to just dick people with that, so yeah. This is not a good timing from the Protoss, right? I guess he's gonna warp in a second round on 5 minutes. It's just funny because this is hitting the same timing like Harstem hits a Marjorie at this timing, but there's 2 Immortals as well.
That's why, so you need to understand, that's why I got so angry, because I'm getting dicked by this build, even though I scouted it. I've done a lot of drones, I have roaches, I have my queens with me, like, I have a lot of minerals, I digress, but it's really just, man, I got so annoyed. Like, not angry, but just annoyed at this. He's just like, I'm building Zenith in your face! I can't do anything about it!
Yeah,
and he was right!
You gotta scratch that, you're playing at a caster level now. You gotta remember, you spend a lot of time talking to pros at Home Story. We've got to remember our own skill is not quite as high as these gods of the game, these Harstems, these Serals, these Showtimes.
Are you telling me like this guy is a god of the game?
No. But I'm saying you're on this guy's level.
Oh yeah.
So I'm saying we have to remember we're on his level. We need to try and scratch the ego as much as possible, and remember that there is like 3 steps between where we are now and consistently playing at the level that we kind of have the knowledge of and we want to play at, right? There's so much muscle memory and little adjustments and all the rest. So anyway, what was your drone count against this?
I think 36.
36? So we should have been fine with 36 drones, but because we did build 10 Zerglings and we lost 2 drones, 36 is probably the right point. Roach Warren is on the way, as is a second gas. You forgot to put it back on your main gas. That's huge. That's devastating, dude.
I just did it now. Should I have... Yeah, that's why I have so many minerals, right?
Absolutely. I would put back on 330 every game, or sometimes lately I've been doing it at the same time as I take my Roach Warren, 340. Yeah. But I also go 3 gases against any build like this because I just want more roaches.
Yeah, I was like, maybe 2 gases is right because I'm so low on drones, right? It's 37.
Sometimes I only put 2 on like the 3rd gas, you know, or something like that. If I realize like, wait, I've actually overshot, but I figure it's always better to overshoot. Because roaches are just the easier unit. Like technically, you could have pulled all your queens to the front a bit earlier. You could have queued up 3 more queens, which you should have done if you'd realized. You could have queued up those queens earlier.
I'm even supply blocked here now, even though I was like, I'm building overlords ahead of time. And I cancelled my 3rd gas. So I was actually indecisive about it. Like I'm not talking about like me playing this perfectly. I just got so annoyed because I scouted everything. That's the whole reason.
Really important point as well. Your second gas should be in your main base, because otherwise, when these situations get messy and if it drags on, if you lose the drones on that gas in your natural, like if they happen to your natural's a bit compromised, it really sucks to get reset to 1 gas mining. There can be games where you're winning, but like you don't realize you've lost those drones on the gas or you've run them away or something, and you just don't have any gas coming in. So I think it's really important to have a second gas in the main base where it's easier to protect. We also didn't have creep connecting your bases, which we see here does hurt you on this ramp a little bit. So we probably should have put down a creep tumor connecting that as well. But that being said, I mean, I think it's mostly the gases there is the big thing. You did stop at a pretty safe worker count. And
I did,
you would have been fine.
Connect my bases because I was only on 3 queens because I scouted it so early. I decided to not get a 4th queen because why? And there's the cancel on the 3rd gas as well. So I usually take the gas on my natural because I take 2 geysers at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just a single action. I box my drones, double click the gas and get the roach mine, and it's all just 1 clean action.
I like that as well. I like that as a chunk. Even when I'm doing a macro build, it's like if I'm going Roach Warren, I'm going 2 extra gases with it. And there are times where I look at it and I go, I actually could have been a bit lighter on the gas. I could have gone 2 gas in this game and gotten away with it. But 3 gases just, it covers more scenarios. So I like that being like, let's not even make a decision there. Let's just do it that way. Awesome, man.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, because I used to be quite greedy in this matchup before there were all these brutal timing attacks where I would often play 2 gas. And we've seen Protoss really see how powerful those attacks are, and my mindset's changed on how much mineral focus I can get away with in this matchup. You know, ZvT, it's 1 gas pretty much forever. In ZvP, it used to be 2 gas, and now it's 3 gas until 3 base saturation. So it's the rule of 1 gas in ZvT, the rule of 3 gas in ZvP. That being said, if I am playing a Hydraling Bane style, you can kind of play a rule of 1 gas there. But even then, I prefer the second gas to be down because of, I like to have the Baneling tech ready. If I have to make 6 Banelings and I'm only mining 1 gas, my Hydroden and my upgrades are really struggling to get down. But, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a couple little things. I'm not sure if I want to take the gas in the main. I think I'd rather not actually, just because it's like.
Just because it's 1 action on the natural, and you reckon you can guard your natural, right?
For 2, it's because the drone rally. I would need to put another action because I would need to rally 3 drones in the main because I want to have 16 in the main, right?
Yep. Okay, I can get behind that, but it means when you defend, you'd have to be a bit more prepared against this push, which you normally should be.
Oh yeah.
You would. I would do a 2-part defense if I were you. I would be both defending the mineral line with roaches probably behind your natural mineral line, as well as the plug on the ramp, and you would have enough for that usually. Like usually, you would have enough roaches to go out and engage this in the open and start kiting it already.
I just have so little here with just 10 roaches out right now. Yeah, just a little short. Also,
just a little short.
I clicked the plates at one point.
Oh,
I'm
really?
not sure if it's
That's
just the
shitty.
queens, but yeah.
Either way, bit shitty, yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's just like, especially those very strong all-ins, and especially when they just go in because they have to. There's just tiny things, but yeah, they're
Awesome.
yeah, okay.
For people watching at home, this is the Game Heart overlay replay, by the way. You can download that on Team Liquid. So just Google Game Heart replay interface. It's really easy to throw that in your replay interface folder in your documents on your computer, Documents, StarCraft 2, Interfaces. Or you'll have to find your account, which is pretty easy, and then Interfaces will be in there. It'll be nice and easy. Awesome, man. So to summarize, we've come up with some new scouting things, which I'm going to try to put into action today as well. Let me link up your... Oh, you found your document. Awesome. You were in there as well.
I still have it as a shortcut.
Awesome. Fantastic. Big brain. So we're going to do the layer ASAP just by default, like the 335, 340 layer first ground play, of course. We're going to do an 8-ling elevator as a cute little adjustment against those DT drops to hit right as they're coming in with the DTs to just really, really punish them. We're doing several scouting lings plus our first overlord will hit the natural and then skirt the edge of the main base. And we're going to combine those two to both try and identify the first tech. Then we're going to send that overlord in at 345, check the main base gas and tech. If they've pulled off the gas, we know it's a Marjorie. We know we've got to stop really low on drones, about 40 drones, and keep building roaches. But we've also moved our second overlord, which used to come as a backup scout to go into the main. We're now putting that above the natural or below the natural, wherever we are on the map. And it's going to come in and check those natural gases at about 445 every game and tell us if our opponent's saturating those gases or not. Now, this is a lot of complicated scouting. eonblu's a high enough level player to get the hang of it with a bunch of games under his belt. For people at home who maybe aren't as high level or you're watching this, you might not want to have as many pieces in your scouting. I often, when I'm coaching people, say, first overlord touches the natural and then just goes straight through the main base. Doesn't matter if it dies to a stalker. As soon as it starts getting shot, you just immediately build another overlord to replace it, as well as what other overlords you might normally be building. And as long as you see their tech in the main base, that's great. And if they don't build a stalker very quickly on shorter maps, you'll often get out the back of their base so you can come back and scout later if you want to. And that is going to tell you, is it Stargate or is it Robo or Twilight play? And you just have two very generalized change-ups, obviously earlier spores, later roach warren and gases if they're Stargate. And if they're ground play, we don't need the spores until DT tech a bit later. So we just go faster roach warren and gases, later spore crawlers. And that's the way we kind of shift that around. That being said, this is pretty complicated stuff. You guys can also check the actual ZvP coaching videos where I go over this much slower and in more detail with diamond level players for the most part. But we can also add that second overlord that comes in above the base and can check the natural gas. So that way it's just two overlords. The first one gets queued up at the very start of the game to scout. We just need to go click on the building that it flies over when it goes through the main. And that other overlord, about 3:30, 4 minutes, we can start bringing that down and queue it up to go behind the natural and just check if they're mining gas or not. Of course, the whole point of this is to get a safe lead. So you'll go for something like... I'm going to replay that in a second. So we're going to go for 4 minutes. Let's say it's a 32 probe timing attack. That's the Marjorie build. That's no gas mining in the main. We're going to stop at 40 drones, right? Safe work lead, just a small one. If they're doing, they've got the gases mining in the main, but they don't have the gases mining in the natural. So they're stopping at a maximum of 38 probes. So that's 2 mineral lines, 16 probes on each, plus 6 on the 2 gases, 38 probes. We go to 45 drones, about the same advantage, just about 7-8 worker advantage, nice safe advantage, and build tons of units, right? Until we confirm they're adding gases or adding a third base, right? So likewise, if they're on 2 bases, but they don't have a third, that means the Protoss is on a maximum of 45 probes, right? Which means we can go to 55 drones, just slightly higher there, but once again, and then pumping lots of units to be safe. And that is exactly what we were looking at in the start of this video with those +2 timing attacks. We see players stop at about 55 drones for a long time, and specifically, we can push our greed even more against that one build, because not only are we identifying the probes, as me and eonblu were talking about, they're going for +2. So once we know that build, we can metagame a bit at high level and say, yeah, they're not going to push this till +2. Oh yeah, they are putting a third down. We can actually push up to 60 drones, maybe even slightly higher than that. But we're probably not going to take a 6th gas. We're probably going to stay like 5 gas. And try to play it from there. So basically, the whole idea here is to structuralize what is a generalized safe economic lead over our opponent, so we get a small economy lead that will give us an advantage over time, but our army is still big enough to stop their potential pushes. And that is real fundamental defensive reactive StarCraft play at its core. So hopefully this helped you guys. Any last points, eonblu, for the YouTube video, or anything you wanted to focus on? I mean, this is all good stuff.
No, it's too late for me to think too much anymore.
No worries. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thank you, eonblu, for joining me and sharing your replays and your woes and your troubles. I really wanted to work on ZvP myself, so this is really helpful for me to structuralize all this. And the Serralings is the biggest thing I'm going to be adding, because these Overlord scouting paths are what I've been using, but I've been struggling to identify the tech at the start. So I think those Serralings are really going to help me out. So guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you are looking for more stuff, there's tons of YouTube videos. Search my YouTube channel. Go into my channel and search my channel for your matchup that you're looking for coaching on. And anything in the past couple of years is usually pretty relevant. But especially we've done a lot in the last few months. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys next time. Cool.
You don't even say that they are supposed to click the bell to get notifications.
Oh, that's like the new thing, isn't it? I'm a terrible YouTuber.
It's an old new thing, but yeah,
it's like a last 2 years thing. That's new. I'm an old man.
Something along those lines.
I'm terrible.